All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Franchising Your Business webinar. And I'm really excited for our guest today. And as folks are coming into the session, one of the things that if you haven't listened to our podcast or subscribed, shameless plug here, but this is for the Multiply Your Success podcast. If you are not a subscriber to it, I encourage you to go to your favorite podcast service and subscribe and look for episode 152, where I had the chance to interview Brittany here a few months back about her book and all the things that she has going on. Some of the things today, I have a feeling we'll probably end up talking about some of those items too. And I specifically sought Brittany out because of her. After reading her book, I thought, oh my goodness, she's amazing. The content is fantastic. We have to share this with people to share what's going on. So a quick bio on Brittany here. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and customer experience speaker who's delivered keynotes across the globe to organizations including American Express and the United Nations. She's worked with some of the world's biggest brands and entertainers, including Walmart, Disney, Katy Perry, and Dolly Parton. She founded and scaled an entertainment startup to 8 figures before exiting, and she is the former chief experience officer of experience.com. Forbes said of her debut book, Creating Superfans, which I loved, by the way, Forbes said, if you have customers, you need this book, period. And I completely agree. Can't agree any more than I already do. So with that, Brittany, I'll turn things over to you to get us started.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Tom. I got to be honest. I don't think I could have paid someone to pump me up more than that. So thank you for all those incredibly kind words. I am so grateful to be here with this audience and so excited to hopefully share some value with everybody giving me their time today.
Oh, well, great. Well, thank you. Well, look, it's creating super fans. That's what it's all about, right? And so I guess I'm a super fan. So with that,
I'd love mutual, as you know in the book. That's part of the secret, is making it mutual. So right back at you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Well, and by way of getting started, I'd love to just turn things over to you to take it away.
Great. Well, let's do it. So as you said, we're here today to talk about creating superfans, which I truly believe is the #1 way to future-proof your business against every others, and not just against the franchises or the companies that are competing with you in your space now, but the ones that could come up in the future. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, and I'll never forget the day that I saw a quote that really changed my mind about what it meant to run a business. And the quote was this, from a very smart marketer named Shiv Singh. He said, the purpose of a business is to create a customer who creates customers. And the more I thought about that, the more I realized it really is that simple and yet that complicated. And, these days we are living in an experience economy. People no longer separate products from services. They have long since blended into one single category, and that's experience. What does it feel like to do business with you? What does it feel like to engage with your company? How are your employees making sure that every single time someone thinks of your brand or business, they're thinking of you not as simply a commodity provider of whom they're going to make a decision based on factors like how close is it, how long is it going to take, how much is it going to cost? Instead, they think of you as a category of one, that partner, that solution that they are so glad that they found, and they can't wait to come see you again. And when given the opportunity, they tell all of their friends. So today, we're going to frame our conversation on winning in that experience economy with that reality, and getting every single person in your company, from your franchisees to the people working for them, aligned around the idea that at any given point, those people are all the chief experience officer of your company. They're the ones impacting the experiences that your prospects and your customers have, and therefore what they think about your brand. Now, we know that we're living in an experience economy because a full 86% of people are willing to pay more for the exact same product or service if they know they're going to have an exceptional experience. So this is not fringe. This is nearly everyone, regardless of their income bracket, of where they live, of their age. They're willing to pay more for a great experience, which means regardless of the industry you're in, you are in the experience business, my friends. And the opportunity to create amazing experiences are everywhere, all around you. They lie in looking for opportunities to take things that aren't experiential and making them so. I don't know about you, Tom, but I get so many Amazon boxes in the mail all the time, especially since Prime Day was this week. And usually it's like a nothing burger. It's just a corrugated cardboard box. I don't think about it. I open it, I get what's inside. But a couple months ago, when they started sending out these boxes, it made me laugh and smile every time because it exceeded my expectations. It was something I wasn't expecting. And it was brilliant because they were advertising Amazon Music. So of course, it was a very smart tie-in that connected Amazon Music's story to my story. And it was a reminder of this duality that is so important to embrace in an experience economy. Experience is everything. It's the number one differentiator between your brand and every other brand on the planet. But the inverse of that is true as well. Everything is experience. Every touch point, every phone call, every interaction, every time someone logs onto your website or your app or walks into your store or engages with an employee. Everything is experience, including the side of a box. And when you embrace that, and when you do a good job of making those opportunities come to life, then you can create what I like to call super fans. Now, I define a super fan as a customer or stakeholder who is so delighted by their experience with you that they become an enthusiastic advocate. There's three parts to that definition. The first, we're talking about customers or stakeholders, someone who actually has had a transactional relationship with your brand. That's important because we know recommendations from someone who has actually worked with a brand or business holds much more weight than somebody who simply is like, oh yeah, I'm aware of someone who does this thing. The second part, they're delighted by their experience, who exceeded their expectations. And then finally, they become an enthusiastic advocate. When given the opportunity, they will vouch for how great you are. In other words, a superfan is really just a customer who creates more customers, which I know every single one of you watching, these are the kinds of customers that you want to create. And in the world that we're living in today, where everyone is connected via social media, everyone is able to share their thoughts in real time and send them around the globe, every single person is an influencer, including you. Every single one of you watching has people in your life who will make a decision about giving money or not giving money to a brand or a business based solely on something that you say, whether it's in person or online. So, how do we teach our employees and how do we teach our franchisees' employees to train themselves to remember this and to treat every single customer like the influencer that they are? Well, my model that I propose is teaching them that to win in an experience economy, being good simply isn't good enough. You've got to be super. Super is a mnemonic device that I've developed over the years of working with some of the largest brands and businesses in the world to help teach employees to own the customer experience. And it stands for S, start with your story. U, understand your customer story. P, personalize. E, exceed expectations. And R, repeat. And this super model may not be able to walk on a catwalk, but it will make you more money and it will make customer centricity and customer experience less nebulous and more easy to embrace for every single person on your team. And you can think of these 5 steps kind of like nesting dolls. Every single one builds on the one before it, but you can't skip any of the steps because to have customer centricity truly ruling the day at your business, you need all of these and you need them in the right order. So Tom, are you cool if I go ahead and jump in?
I would love to. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, up first is S, start with your story. And when I say start with your story, I don't mean lead with your story. I don't mean you should be out there like trying to talk about what you do in the first 5 seconds of everyone that you meet. What I mean is that everything has to originate from the story of why you exist, why your company is the absolute best choice to serve your prospects and your customers. Because if you don't know that, if you can't clearly articulate how you're different from all of your competitors, how in the world is an employee ever going to be able to do it? And if they can't do it, what choice does a customer or a prospect ever have of figuring it out? They don't. And that means you will be doomed to exist in the land of commodity providers, where people think, oh, they're about the same as everybody else, and they'll make decisions on commodity factors. What is the closest? What is the cheapest? What can be here the fastest, etc. And we don't want to be in that space. We want to be in the mindset of category of one, people who are choosing us at the exclusion of others, so that we're making price irrelevant, we're making distance irrelevant, and all of those other factors. So I want to ask you, what is your superpower? What is it that you do better than everybody else? And can every single person in your organization answer that question in the same way? Because if they can't, I promise you, your customers can't. You've got to get crystal clear on your story, on your superpower, so that when someone says, why you? You've got a compelling, concise answer. Because once you have that, you'll be able to find ways to share stories that illustrate that everywhere. Every single touch point is an opportunity to share your story. In my book, Creating Superfans, I offer lots and lots of examples of how your origin story and your story set list can all come together to help, reinforce the uniqueness of who you are and your superpowers. But just to share a couple fun examples of how every touch point can help illustrate your story. Here's a picture I took inside the Nike store a couple months ago, and my sons were looking for new shoes for vacation. And they loved the fact that all throughout the store, they could see how their feet measured up to the sizes of the feet of Nike athletes like Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony and Serena Williams, which was a brilliant way to use real estate on the floor that was being used for literally nothing except being walked on, for Nike to remind you that regardless of the size of your foot, they've got you covered. Great way to connect what they do to what you need, because superfans are created at the intersection of your story and every customer story. Another great example is from the European Wax Center. They could say on their door, walk-ins welcome, but they don't. They say walk in, strut out. And in those 4 words, they tell you everything you need to know about how you're going to feel if you do business with their brand. And you're constantly communicating your story. As I said before, everything is experience. Every touch point, every single thing sends a signal to your prospects and your customers. Case in point, this is the Sherwin-Williams paint store about a mile from my house. And every time I drive by, I think to myself, you have one job. Like, isn't paint the only thing you do? Maybe paint your store, maybe paint your sign. I just don't get the impression that you care a whole heck of a lot about paint. Everything is experience. So you've got to start with your story and the experience that you're creating. All right, up next is you understand your customer story. As I said, superfans are created for those two worlds collide. So after we're clear on our own, we want to move on to understanding our customers. I love this meme. I know it's about cats, but I feel like it's very true of customers as well. There's often a disconnect between what it is that they need and what it is that we're sharing, which can create a confused buyer, can create cognitive dissonance, and really put up barriers to buy. So when you think about understanding your customer, what it is that they really need, I want you to remember this quote from Teddy Roosevelt. He said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's this idea of empathy and authority together as a 1-2 punch. And whether you're training your managers or your frontline employees or your franchisees, reminding them that empathy should come before authority for maximum impact is so important. Because when you've got that together, it is like I don't know the boxing analogy, but it's like a left-right hook or something that is just amazing when you can put the two of them together. But so many people don't think about it. They treat every single customer like another number, like another purchase order, like another hamburger that they're selling. And it's so critical to not do that. I think sometimes about the first time I saw my teacher outside of school when I was a kid and how it like freaked me out because I wasn't used to seeing her like not in my classroom. The first time I saw her at the grocery store, I was like, oh my gosh, she exists outside of the classroom. And it was like this crazy experience. Don't think of your customers the same way that we all thought of our teachers when we were younger. They exist beyond their relationship with your business. And the more you understand about them and how your business fits into their lives, the more you can do a better job of showing up as they need you to become an even more important part of their life. Up next is P, personalize. Now, there's something called the platinum rule. It's from a book by a guy named Dr. Tony Alessandra, who is brilliant. I highly recommend this book. He said, we all grew up following the golden rule, which is, of course, treat others the way you want to be treated. But when you're working in businesses, and particularly when you're working in hospitality spaces, that's not good enough. You don't want to treat others the way you would want to be treated. You want to treat them the way they want to be treated, because not everyone wants to be treated the same way as you. Not everyone has the same backgrounds and preferences and beliefs and information. So it's all about asking the right questions to get the customers the information that they need in the way that's going to feel best to them, so that you can personalize as much about the customer journey as possible. And when I talk about personalization, sometimes people say, okay, are you talking about the high tech stuff that I can do or the high touch stuff that I can do? What are you really trying to get at here? And I always say the answer is both, because when you take high tech and you combine it with high touch, that is where you can create high impact. By automating the things that you don't have to have someone on your team do, you can free up more of their time to pay attention to the things that they can do in a way that could never be automated. Case in point, I love McAllister's Deli. I am such a fan of sweet tea. I live in the South. I drink it all the time, even though it's probably not very good for me. And for $6.99 a month, you can drink all the tea you want in McAllister's Deli. They call it a tea pass. You can go in and get your tea all the time. I order it in the app. It's a one-click order, and I can go pick it up right by the counter at the door. I wouldn't have to interact with a single employee if I didn't want to. However, every single time I go to pick up that tea, I find a sweet note or message written for me by one of the employees on the team, which is so fantastic, because it reminds me that Crystal or Amy or Josh or whoever's working that day didn't just make that tea for anyone. They made it for me. Personalization, showing your customers that you care, because in an experience economy, they're not just comparing their experiences with you to the best ones they've had with your competitors. They're comparing it to the best experiences they've had. All right, up next is E, exceed expectations. And this is so important. If I were going to pick one of my favorite letters in super, it might be this, exceed expectations. In my book, I talk all about this concept of intentional experience design, which is making sure that you're not leaving anything to chance in your business. You're thinking about before, during, and after the transaction, before, during, and after the customer is in your space or on your website. What can you do to remove all of their friction? Is it easy to find your location? Is it easy to park when they get there? Is it easy to get the information that they need online? All of these things matter. They're all part of the thought that you should put into crafting the experience, because if you are not intentional about it, what's going to happen is there's going to be variance from day to day or shift to shift or city to city, which is going to lead to more of that cognitive dissonance. People are like, oh, I don't know if this is a good location or not. I've had good and bad experiences. And we all know what it feels like when you go to a place and it's amazing the first time, and then the second time you're like, I don't know. Do you roll the dice and go a third time? Maybe, or maybe you say, man, there are a lot of other people in the same space, and you slide back into that commodity provider spot. So we want to be intentional about the experiences. In my book, I talk all about how to do that, so you can check it out. I'm sure Tom will throw a link in for those of you watching this later. So I am a big believer that there are only 3 types of interaction that any customer ever has. Any person, to take it a step further. At the end of any interaction, you're going to feel exactly one of 3 ways. You're going to feel better, worse, or exactly the same as you did before that interaction started. This is my favorite customer experience metric, because when you start talking about CSAT or CES or NPS, the people working with your customers can feel sort of disconnected from that. Like, oh, well, that has to do with a lot of different things, not just me. Every single person on your teams has the ability in any interaction to leave a customer one of 3 ways: better, worse, or exactly the same as they found them. A net negative, a net neutral, a net positive. And if you can train your teams to train their teams to leave every customer a little bit better than they found them, you will create super fans. People will remember those meaningful, memorable moments. They'll come back to experience them again and they'll tell their friends. Case in point, one of my most memorable moments of visiting Legoland in Southern California, which is operated by Merlin, was this elevator. I don't know if you can tell, but it is a disco dance party in this elevator at the resort. There's the mirror ball, there's the lights, the decals. Every single time the door played, it was like ABBA and Dancing Queen and the Bee Gees, like everything that you can imagine. My sons loved it. It was such a dance party. We were at that resort for 3 full days before I realized that was the slowest elevator I had ever been on. Like, not metaphorically speaking, because I was sick of listening to the same 6 songs over and over, but like literally it was so slow. The whole song Dancing Queen would play between the lobby and the 5th floor where we were staying. And it was also really small. So it was one family at a time. So it was a long wait to get onto the elevator. And then it took forever to get downstairs. But it took 3 full days before I even noticed. And then once I noticed, I didn't care because it was so fun. They had taken a slow elevator and they had transformed it into an experience. They had taken what would have been a net negative and gone not just to a net neutral, but to a net positive, something my kids talked about for months and could not wait to go back and ride again when we went to Legoland the following summer. I'm sharing this with you because I promise you right now in your business, probably both at the corporate level and at the level of all your franchisees, there are slow elevators. I promise you, there are always slow elevators, but rather than throw your hands up in the air and say there's nothing we can do with it or about it, or that's just the economy, or everyone's dealing with this right now, or it's a supply chain issue, I challenge you not to just accept it, not to just say, hey, there's nothing I can do, but to try to transform that slow elevator into a disco dance party, because by doing that, your customers will remember. And 5th and finally, R is repeat. This is a nod to the fact that you're never truly done when it comes to customer centricity and customer experience. You want to constantly look for new and better ways to bring those customers to the middle of the experience economy that you're creating. You want to look for ways to create repetition, because as Elizabeth Arden once famously said, repetition makes reputation and reputation makes customers. And everyone in the franchise space knows that reputation is everything. So you want to look for ways that you can create repeatable actions that you're known for, systemize and automate them so that you know there are going to be predictably amazing experiences for your customers, regardless of the variables. And that, my friends, is a very, very quick deep dive into the supermodel, SUPER. If you want to pick up the book, you can go deeper into all of those and get a playbook for your team. But I want to give you a very quick real-time example of how I went from someone who hadn't really had any opinion at all about a company to being a super fan. And it all started when I adopted these 2 cute pups, Bandit and Bear. And Bear, the one who we were told was a border collie mix, but our eyes lead us to think he might be a Rottweiler, was having a really hard time finding a food that worked for him. So finally, I went on Chewy.com, the recommendation of my vet, to check out this certain prescription medicine that she had written me a prescription for. Now, if you'll notice on the screen, it says you can't get this medicine without a prescription. I have no idea why. Maybe there is like a black market for dog food somewhere. Again, I still don't understand this, but for whatever reason, you have to show a prescription. So this is the exact email that I sent to the Chewy team with this order, my very first ever order on the website. I said, hello, below and attached, please find the prescription authorization for this number. Thanks, Brittany. I remember it was a Saturday, so I didn't think I would hear back right away, but less than 10 minutes later, I get this note. It says, hi there, Brittany. Thanks so much for sending Bear's prescription directly. I've applied it to your order and everything's set. Once it ships out, you'll get an email confirmation and a tracking number. If you need anything else at all, give us a bark. We're here 24/7 to lend a helping paw. Ciao, ciao for now, Chewy. Now, excuse me, ciao, ciao for now, Kelly R. That is a brilliant email for a lot of reasons. Number one, the personalization. Kelly doesn't just say, I got your order. She says, I got your order for Bear. I didn't use my dog's name. This is the note that I sent, but she looked at the prescription and she wrote back about Bear, because I wasn't buying dog food for any dog. I was buying dog food for my dog, the cutest border collie in the world. Just like your customers are looking for solutions for them. and for their families, the most important people on the planet. You want to show that you care about them just as much as they deserve. They're not just another customer, not just another number. She goes on to tell me everything I need to know. She sets expectations. She throws in a couple of dog puns. And all of a sudden, I feel connected to this company. Now, so much so that even though I didn't really need to reply to that email, it felt rude not to. So I did. I just said, perfect. Thanks so much, Kelly. I really appreciate it. And so does Bear. And if I'm being honest, I thought that was the end of it. I thought Kelly and I were going to like go our separate ways, lead our lives, but nope, she wrote back again. She said, hi there, Brittany. Absolutely. It's our pleasure. We're so thankful every day for each and every wonderful member of our Chewy family like you. Please tell Bear we said hello. And if you ever happen to snap a cute photo of him enjoying his Chewy goodies, feel free to send it our way. We always love meeting our VIPs. Very important pause. So now in 10 minutes and 2 emails, I've gone from not caring at all where I get my pet's dog food to thinking I'm a member of a family and my dog's a VIP. Like, this is pretty cool. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing dog food as less of a commodity and more of something that I want to buy from Chewy and from Kelly, where they care the most. Now, she goes on to say that I can, send a picture of the pups, that she's there to help me 24/7, 365, rain or shine, before signing it over in Snout. And at this point, I was like, let me do a little more research into this Chewy company. And I found out that, of course, they differentiate themselves with customer experience. They're all about personalization and making you feel like part of the family. So much so that they routinely do surprise and delight for customers, like sending out hand-painted portraits, of which I was a lucky recipient one day for no reason at all other than to thank me for being a Chewy customer. And now these portraits hang up in my house so that when my friends come over and say, did you have someone paint pictures of your dogs? I get to say, no, Chewy did it, and tell the story over and over again. That's what it means to be so great that your customers can't help but talk about you, to transform from a commodity provider to a category of one. And this power exists for every single company, for every single employee, because the truth is your brand isn't just your logo. And until you're Apple or Amazon or Disney or another brand who can evoke an emotion or a feeling in people just by seeing their logo, your brand is your people. The people who are out there every single day making a difference. So you've got to ask yourselves, what are you doing today to create super fans? Are you creating more net neutral experiences or more net positive experiences? Is your team creating intentional experiences or accidental haphazard ones? When you can focus on creating an experience that they will remember, you will win in an experience economy. Because remember, when you say you're great, that is just marketing. Everybody in the world does it. But when other people say you're great, that is magic. And that is where true super fans are created. The end. Not the end, the beginning, but the end for this presentation today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. And I would just like to open things up for anyone who's on the line here who has a question or two. If you want to type that into the Q&A or chat, or feel free to hit the raise hand feature. We can unmute you to ask your question. I would say while we're waiting, if anyone is going to ask, I just have a question or two that popped up from your presentation, and just something that I see from clients, growing franchise brands, especially newer franchise brands, where they're still founder led. And sometimes the founder, the entrepreneur that starts a business will say, well, I'm kind of that magic behind what our differentiator for your story, kind of, they view themselves, that connection with that customer. How do you help someone kind of get past that and over that? Have you run into that or addressed that with other companies and clients you've worked with?
This is a great question, Tom. And I have encountered this countless times, because you're right. As businesses grow, everyone gets to that point. And one of the things that you've got to do as a founder is say, what is it about me? What is it about this story? Because it has to be bigger than you. If you're going to be a successful franchise, it has to be bigger than you. It's got to be about the change that you're inspiring in the world. What bothered you so much that you dedicated your life to starting this business to solve a problem? And once that problem becomes more central to the story, then it allows other employees and franchisees and team members to see themselves in the story, because they can say, we also are incredibly passionate about solving this problem. And, I've always been passionate about solving this problem, but when I met our founder, Jake, and heard him talk about it, I knew I had to join him in that mission. And together, it's like Captain Planet and the Planeteers, like our powers combined, we are greater than one. So being able to say, yes, I may be the first part of this story, but there are other parts as well. And it's got to be able to proliferate beyond you so that you are a successful global franchise and not just a beloved local business.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Looks like we've got a compliment. Very informative. Thank you. Very energetic. So we have a compliment for you. But not a question here. Well, I would say this, Brittany, what's one way for someone, if they're interested, we mentioned about getting a copy of your book. How can people find out more, get connected with you? As I understand and have seen some of your YouTube videos, you're a great public speaker, great for annual conventions or franchise conventions. Talk about some ways that people can get involved.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tom. I am on the road all the time as a speaker. So yes, if you've got a sales meeting or a franchisee meeting, I would love to talk about you, or would love to talk to you about if this is the right message and customer centricity is the right message to get in front of your team. You can find me at brittanyhodak.com. All of the resources that you want and need are there. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'm brittany@brittanyhodak.com, and I would love to help talk you through any challenges that you or your team are having as you grow, scale, and operate.
Wonderful. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I was on mute for a second. Wonderful, Brittany. Well, thank you so much for being a guest here. I don't see any other questions coming through. And we will make sure this is live. This will be published up on YouTube, on our website, blog. So grateful for your time today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Tom, for having me. It was great to see you, and I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.